Hi guys, my name is Shiv, and what an honor it is to introduce you all to our next speaker, Dominic Siow, who is an author of an Amazon bestseller, founder of EQ Strategist, and I have to write this down because the list is quite long. He's a facilitator at Centre of Continuing Education at University of Sydney. He specializes in giving workshops on emotional intelligence, on resilience, communication, and of course, for what we are all here for, productivity. Now, before I go further, I wanted to quickly ask you guys, what do you think is the most important asset you have? Anyone? What's the most important asset? Time, yes, awesome. And just a show of hands, how many guys think we are becoming a victim of time rather than a master of time? If you think we have become a victim of time, yeah. Nice. So we're going to change that today. Dominic is here to change that today. And he's going to take us through a masterclass on optimizing personal productivity so we can all become a master of our time. Guys, before I move further, can I please request everyone to sit next to somebody? So there are going to be some interactive activities, and it can only happen when you have a person sitting right next to you. So I'll give you guys a minute. If you can please move around if you don't have anyone sitting next to you. Love it. Thank you. So guys, without further ado, can we please put our hands together for our next speaker, Dominic.
Thank you, Shiv. Can everyone hear me okay? Good afternoon, wonderful people. Silly question, I know, but given that we're living in the most extraordinary time in history, and you've all come back to that alma mater that has made such a big difference to your growth and development, how's everyone feeling? Are you feeling excited to be here? After that wonderful introduction by sensational Shiv. Boy, that's a hard act to follow. Everyone, can you give him a big, warm thank you for that great introduction? He was literally asked to MC this kind of maybe about 15 minutes ago, and one of the things that great champions do is they say yes, especially when it's not so comfortable, so that they can realize even more of their highest potential in the course of making a difference. I'm very honored to be here, and yet I'm feeling a little bit challenged because I have literally got maybe slightly less than an hour to make a tiny little dent to your life. But how many of you are absolutely committed to making sure you're taking notes, keeping an open mind, and making sure you take away at least one idea that you'll apply to get even more out of your most precious asset, your time? Would that be okay, everyone? Yes, because our time is precious, and one of the key things is always to get value, and I'm here to do that. I've got a presentation here that by the end of this session, I want to share with you 7 key principles, strategies, and tools that will help you get the very most out of your most precious asset, time. And why is that important? Ultimately, everything that we do is designed to help us feel even more successful and get even more happiness in our lives. How many would value that? Yeah, these things didn't come naturally to me, but I want to jump straight in. The 7 key principles are this. Yeah, step number 1, you got to decide to be the captain of your own ship. Number 2, be purpose-led. Always start off with the big picture. Number 3, put first things first. It's not about doing everything in your life. It's about knowing the key things that will make the biggest difference to your life and really putting those things first. The 4th thing is, how many of you sometimes struggle with this thing called procrastination? I'm guilty of that as well, occasionally. And very often we procrastinate on all the things that are really important in our life because it's a little bit uncomfortable. How can you take massive action and make growing purposefully a priority in your life so that you can experience even greater fulfillment? The next thing is, clearly, it's not about how much you do, it's the energy that you put into what you do that really matters. How many would agree that when you're excited and enthusiastic and passionate, time seems to go just right past? And how many would agree that there have been times when we are bored out of our heads when 10 minutes has felt like an eternity? Absolutely wonderful. So learning that managing time is also about managing energy and creating energy. Remembering that time is a finite resource. Once you've used it up, it is gone. It's never going to come back. But energy is something that we recreate. So step number 6, how do you energize, make time to sharpen the saw? Step number 6 is to work smarter, not harder. How can we optimize the resources around us? And step number 7 is how to stay focused. Because research has shown that 20% of our time we are dealing with distractions that take away from the bigger picture. So that's what I have for you. But my dear friends, how many of you would agree that there are times in our life, in phases in our life, when we just don't seem to have enough of that thing called time? And how many would agree that during those moments when we're a little bit overwhelmed, can lead to burnout if you're not careful, which can, regardless of your credentials and your expertise and your knowledge, can really affect your well-being, your productivity, the moods and vibes you bring home to your families. How many would agree with that? Yeah, I wish I'd learned these skills much earlier in my life. Would it be okay if I share with you a little bit about my backstory? Yeah, I hope you forgive me, but I used to be a very shy, introverted, nerdy geek. I started my career as a software engineer. Used to spend all my days and nights working with machines. Put me in front of 3 workstations, I was happy as Larry. Grew up in this wonderful country called Malaysia, lived in Sydney, Australia, last 40 years. It's been extraordinary, but my very conservative, traditional Malaysian parents had always told their 4 sons, we got no business to leave you, no money to leave you. All we can do is give you the very best education we could never afford for ourselves. Overseas education in Australia was their dream for their 4 sons. I did everything that was mapped out for me. Came here because I was shy, introverted, nerdy. I decided quite decent in math, computer science, my first degree. My parents told me, get that degree we never could afford for ourselves, climb the corporate ladder, and life will be sweet. Year 2000, I had arrived at this place called senior manager at a place called IBM. Any of you heard of IBM? The year 2000, any of you remember what happened in Sydney year 2000? Very significant event. Olympics. That year, just by being sheer fortune of being the guy that managed the software services business for IBM Northern Region, my team and I had the privilege of writing the Olympic Games result system. That year, the website that we built made it to the Guinness Book of World Records. Most number of hits per second without crashing. Everyone wanted to know what time it was that Cathy Freeman would run that race that would stop the nation. It was amazing. And so just riding on the success of that wonderful project, we won the rights to host the next 2 Olympic Games result systems and the Australian Open Tennis. Any of you watch the Australian Open Tennis? Anytime you watch the digital scoreboards, the news that hit the news wire, ever wondered, what's the software that's powering that? My teams and I had the privilege of writing those systems. So my dear friends, just riding on the success of that project, Northern Region, Australia, we became the darlings of the IBM family. So you can imagine my shock and surprise when I got that call that morning. October the 5th, 2001. Friday morning. Funny how it always happens on a Friday. Beautiful spring day. My management style back in the day was very simple. Don't talk too much, lead through your work ethic. I was always first in, last out. 7:20 a.m., 10 minutes from a St. Leonard's office, I was stuck in the busy traffic, I get a phone call. Looked at the number, +65 country code. Does anyone recognize that number? Yes, sir. Singapore, 4:30 a.m. in Singapore. I've always heard that the Singaporeans work real hard, but boy, seldom get a call that early in the morning. Picked up the phone nervously. It was Keith Pope, my boss's boss, Asia Pacific Director. Where the heck are you, mate? 10 minutes from the office, Keith. 10 minutes from the office, Keith. Very early. Is it urgent? Can it wait? Dom, I do not have the luxury of time to wait for you to get to the office to break the news to you. I'm afraid I'm going to have to do it over the phone. I've decided to restructure your organization. You are losing 30% of your team today. With that one statement, I felt like my whole world had come crashing down on me. And for 2 years, my dear friends, my career fell into a hole. Lost all my passion, energy, and drive for my work. In those 2 years, when my team and my very young family, I have 3 wonderful children, all wonderful grown-up adults now, at a time when they needed me most, I was the absent leader, physically present, mentally, psychologically absent. But you know what? In your darkest hours, as they always say, there's always a silver lining. Attending a workshop, managing your energy, managing your time, taking charge of your destiny. Don't be a victim of your circumstance. Be a master of your destiny. A program that was at the CCE Entertainment Centre 4 days long with this wonderful coach by the name of Tony Robbins would change my life. Any of you heard of Tony Robbins? Yeah, that amazing human being known as the CEO Whisperer, has trained some of the best and the best of the best, right? The late Nelson Mandela, Princess Di, our own Hugh Jackman, all those wonderful people, Serena Williams, Andre Agassi. And this man in the front of the stage, he says to me, Dom, it's not the blowing of the wind, it's the setting of the sail that determines where you end up in life. The wind is like change. How many of you agree that change is the only constant? And everywhere I go, my dear friends, over the last 18 years, I've coached more than 255 different organizations across the planet. One of the things that is consistent everywhere I go, everyone is required to do everything quicker, cheaper, better. How many of you agree with that? Those of you in the workforce, every year. It doesn't matter whether you're in a sunset industry, booming industry, everyone's required to do faster, cheaper, better. Right? And during those times, it can result in a tremendous amount of overwhelm to everybody, affecting their well-being, their productivity, the moods and vibes they bring home to their families. I know firsthand how debilitating that can be. But my dear friends, Tony said to me, it's not the blowing of the wind, it's the setting of the sail. Right? You can't change the wind. And he says, just because you have a manager in your title does not a leader make you in the eyes of others. Leaders have a clear and compelling vision. He says to me, Dom, decide to be the captain of your ship. Mate, you can't change the wind, but only you have the power to point the ship towards the destination of your ideal choosing. He says, Dom, it's in the moments of your decisions that your destiny is shaped. Everything that's happened in your life, from your date of birth to this second, doesn't determine what tonight will be like. Next week, next year, the rest of your career, the rest of your life, but the decisions you make from today, right at this moment. He says to me, Dom, do you have a good life or extraordinary? I say, mate, at that time, good at best. Good career or extraordinary? I say, mate, good at best. Good energy and vitality or extraordinary? I say, mate, good at best. Feeling very flat. Good relationships or extraordinary? I say, mate, especially in the context of work, good at best. He says, good is the enemy of great. If you want to have an extraordinary life, extraordinary career, decide in advance to make it so. No one will make it so for you but you. How many would agree that that's the truth? Yeah? But decide in advance what extraordinary looks like. Say, Dom, I want you to imagine it's the end of your career. It's all done. Your best days are behind you. Your friends and family are throwing for you a testimonial dinner. Where would you like it to be held? How many people would you like to have show up that day? How are they related to you? Who would you love to have deliver the speeches that evening? What would you love to hear them say? My dear friends, up to that stage in my life, I realized that I had been the very task-oriented engineer who never really made the leap to senior manager. Promoted because I was the obedient, compliant, go above and beyond, the guy that everyone would work 8 hours, I would do 12, promoted for that, right? And arrived at that stage where I was still a very hard-working individual contributor, but not necessarily a great leader. I'd wake up every morning, and the first question that used to pop into my head was, what do I need to do today? The power of a question to change your life. For once in my life, I had someone else ask me a different question. Many years from now, looking back, what will make you say it's been extraordinary? In the context of your career, in the context of your life, your energy, your bucket list items, your family, your relationships, what will cause you for you to say extraordinary? My dear friends, I took that exercise very seriously. I wrote 3 pages full. bullet point summaries, all the speeches I love to hear my three wonderful children, my amazing wife, that lady up there. Sue, can you wave to everybody here? That's my amazing wife. Everyone, can you give her a huge warm welcome, please? My former managers, my staff, my clients, my suppliers say about my long and hopefully illustrious career. When I read back what I'd written, I was in for a shock. Not a single mention of the Sydney Olympics. I thought it was one of my finest achievements. Didn't say he worked at, he started off his career as a research assistant for the late Professor Cyril Brooks, turned his ideas in knowledge management into a piece of technology. Happened to have commercial value, helped him grow this Australian startup from 2 to 40 people, took it to the world, worked in the Silicon Valley with some of the best and brightest engineers at the dawn of the internet age, helped him sell this Australian startup to Sun Microsystems before he joined IBM. I thought it was one of my finest achievements. But turns out in the final analysis, those things didn't feature at all. But all he said was that he inspired his three wonderful children to use their natural gifts to make the biggest difference to the lives of people who honored them. And in the course of that, he taught them how to find fulfillment through their career and their life. And he did it mostly by leading by example. I found that they, my dear friends, have a real passion for workplace culture. How many would agree that how you and your people feel about coming to work each and every day affects your performance, your productivity, the moods and vibes you bring home to your families? How many would agree with that? Yes? Absolutely. But that day, my dear friends, I saw a vision. I created a vision of me touching at least 1 million lives in my work before my time's up. Traveling around the world, anyone needed help, as long as they're sincere with their intent, I will be there. My dear friends, that day has taken me to where I am today. That day, just doing that one little exercise, I realized I had been sleepwalking in my journey through the forest, never taking time to see the bigger picture, to see where I was headed. But that day, realized that I had reached a fork in my journey. Climbed the corporate ladder, one day maybe taking Keith Pope's role. AB director used to be my old goal, no longer tugged at the heartstrings. But instead, I saw myself doing this, doing what I love doing best, with people that I love best, for people that I care about, hopefully leaving a meaningful difference to all of you in my wake, and importantly, inspiring my three wonderful children in the process. It's brought me to where I am today. So know that I'm here not just to run a session, I'm here hopefully to share with you one or two ideas that you can take away to immediately apply to get even more out of your most precious asset, that thing called time. But my dear friends, the first step to mastering time is this. Time flies, it's up to you to be the navigator. It's one of the most precious assets. How many of you have heard people who say, hey, you know what, I wish I had more time for this. I didn't do that because I don't have time. How many would agree with that? And you know what, a lot more people were invited to be here, and yet you chose this to be what you wanted to do this afternoon as a priority. Would you agree? So one of the key things is when you make a decision that you want to be the best master of your time, one of the things that I chose to stop saying is, I don't have time. No. I started saying, I choose to do this with my time. Does that make sense? And that small little distinction, because how many would agree that what we say conditions and programs the way we think each and every day? Yeah, and each and every day, the language that we use is either conditioning us to be a master of our destiny or a victim of our circumstance. But team, given that we're going to be here, we're spending an hour together, this is 1 hour that we're not going to get back. Can we also put this into practice today? Can we decide that this is not just going to be a master class, we tick the box, but it's going to be extraordinary? Would that be okay, everybody? Yes, can you turn to the person next to you, seal that commitment, give that person a high five and say, be extraordinary. Come on, everybody. Be extraordinary. Yeah, if you're going to be here, we better make it extraordinary, right? So thank you. So the first thing is wake up every morning, decide it's going to be the best day of your life. I know some of you are already wondering, where the heck does this crazy man get his energy from? Yeah. Thank you for keeping an open mind. I hope no one here is terribly allergic to enthusiasm, because that's what you're going to get a lot out of me today. But you know what? I just can't help it. But in everything that you do, how many of you agree that enthusiasm matters? How you experience, yeah? And you know what? I can tell you about that, but importantly, it's so important that I show you what that looks like. Yeah. And is it okay that I stick true to one of my highest values, which is to be authentic? in my purpose and how I'm being. Yeah, thank you so much. All right, team. So remember that the most important purchases we make are not with our dollars, but with our time. Yeah. So key thing here, always remember, isn't the blowing of the wind. Sorry, team, can you help me with the slides? It's not moving. It's not the blowing of the wind, it's the setting of the sail. Anyone up there that can help me with the slides? Is it moving? Okay, great. So, everyone, always remember this, the situations in our life can affect our results. It doesn't determine our results, right? Right? It's not about what happens. The situations can determine our results. It can affect our results. It doesn't determine our results. Sorry, team, it's not moving. Yeah. It's in the moments of your decisions. We spoke about that. Decide that no matter what happens, you can choose to create an extraordinary outcome. So team, very quickly, if you don't mind, if you turn to the person next to you, have a quick conversation. I want you to imagine you were traveling with your partner, only had this one suitcase between the two of you, and you had to get as many items in and the most important items in. What would your strategy be? I want you to discuss and come up with 2 or 3 steps. Would that be okay, everyone? All right, team, very quickly, if you don't mind, turn to your buddy, have a quick conversation. Have a quick conversation. All right, team, everyone good? All right, team, can I just have maybe one quick share here? Someone who has volunteered to share, what is your strategy? What's step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, step number 4? Anybody? Volunteer? Yes, thank you so much. Sorry? Reduce duplicates. Everyone give her a big hand, everybody. Yes. Absolutely fantastic. So basically looking at our time, and the equivalent of this is, you know what? The suitcase is a little bit out like the container for our time, 24/7. It is finite, it is fixed. Would you agree? So as much as possible, eliminate waste. Eliminate waste. Make time to review and say, do I really need this? Do I really need this? Is this important? Thank you so much. What's your name? Meniza. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Someone else. What's another step that's important?
I've got the mic. I'll pass them the mic.
Over there. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Bring the essentials.
Bring the essentials. And firstly, can you help me decide, how will you decide what's essential?
What will ensure your comfort?
Wonderful. So the essentials are like the health and well-being, the basic stuff, the survival stuff, right?
Yes.
And what else? And what else?
And your basic needs?
Your basic needs. So you want to ensure that all the basic needs are put in first, yes? And what else? What else decides for you what are the essentials? Anybody?
What's practical?
Sorry? What's practical? Fantastic. What else? Sorry, what's safety? Fantastic. Those are the essentials. Someone else? Passport, obviously. They are essential stuff. What else? What else? Yes? Stay connected with your loved one. What will help you stay connected with your loved ones? Is it gifts and all that kind of stuff? Would you agree? Sorry? Phone charger, all those are the essentials, would you agree, yeah? So firstly, you got to make sure that you have all the essentials. But the other thing that's really important that we decide what you put in and what you put out is, what is the purpose of your travel? How many of you agree with that? Yes? If I'm going for a business trip, certain things have to go in. That's different to if I'm going for leisure or vacation. Yes, so be very clear about your purpose is key to your success. So, yes. Oh, okay, team. Yeah, that's quite okay. Team, if you don't mind, cue the next slide, please. But thank you so much for that. You will see that success is a formula. Success is a formula, right? Team, next one, if you don't mind. The first step towards achieving anything that you want, after you've decided to make it extraordinary, is you must start off with a clear vision. You must start off with a clear what? Vision. Everyone see bigger picture, understand. I want you to imagine that it's the end of your vacation or your end of your trip. What does success look like? Make time to ask that question. Rather than saying, hey, what do I need to bring? Be very clear about what will make this trip the most successful and extraordinary, wonderful experience that it can be. Can you see that there's a very different focus? It's a very different way of thinking. It's not like, hey, what should I bring? It's like, what will make this trip Amazing. So similarly, with your time, with your container, always start off with the bigger picture. Yeah, 5 years from now, looking back, what will make me say is extraordinary? Once you're clear about that, 1 year from now, looking back, what will make you say is extraordinary because I've reached a very key milestone. Let's say 5 years is the top of the mountain. If I arrive at this destination 1 year from now, I can look back and say it's been extraordinary. So first step is you must start with a clear vision. Is that cool, everyone? And please turn to the person next to you, give the person a high five and say, be visionary. Go right ahead, everybody. Be visionary. Thank you so much. Now the next step is you got to start. You got to tell yourself what's the purpose. You got to have a vision, but you also got to have a strong purpose because I can guarantee you, once you go from vision to action, and action is what do I need to do? What do I need to do with my time? Before you do that, you got to say, how is achieving that outcome important? Because that gives you purpose and passion. Right? Before you talk about, hey, what should I do? And as part of what you do, you want to make time to plan. What are all the things I could do to make that vision and that purpose a reality? What if there's only 5 out of the 10 things I could do? Which are the ones that will give me the best outcomes? Does that make sense? A little bit of planning time before you take action. And when you take action, always review what you're getting. It's a little bit like a plane flying from Sydney to Melbourne. 95% of the time, it is off course. But you know what? Before the flight even has taken off, the pilot knows to a pin exactly what time he or she needs to arrive there. Yes. And the purpose is make sure everyone has a great experience, feeling safe, feeling secure, and to be able to either get to the reconnecting flight or whether they're able to do their business or reconnect with loved ones. They're very clear about vision and purpose before they take action and fly the plane. Would you agree? Yes? Well, flying the plane is normal. The moment you come up with a plan, I guarantee you tomorrow everything will, the last minute emergencies and stuff will show up. So it's a little bit like flying the plane. No matter how well you've laid out the plan, I guarantee you there'll be bumps, there'll be turbulence. And guess what the pilot is doing? They're always monitoring the scoreboard, the dashboard, and saying, hey, what's the wing speed, flight speed? Am I getting there? Will I get there on time? And just adapt, but staying focused towards your goal. In summary, I've just given you a strategy, a way to think, the order of thinking that will help you get the very most and the best outcomes in your journey. Is that making sense, team? All right, team, let's move on to the next slide. Next slide. So again, team, whatever organization you're working on, whenever you're setting the goals for a year in order to optimize your productivity, always remember, what's the bigger picture? So for instance, in this company here, Hartman, for instance, I'm just using an example, using the analogy of a plane, you have a destination, what's the vision? Every organization has a vision. I want to encourage each and every one of you, looking at yourself as an organization, what's your vision? What's your vision for your life? What's your vision for your career? But similarly, it's got a purpose. I want to encourage you to spend time thinking about what your mission statement in life is. What's your purpose? One day when this is said and done, what do you want your life to be defined by? You know, for me, in my career, it's all about creating workplace culture that inspires the natural best out of people. It's what inspires me. From a one-to-one standpoint, it's helping people realize the highest potential through their emotional intelligence, right? And to experience each and every day creating extraordinary experiences. That's my personal mission. It guides me each and every day. But starting off with the bigger picture, look at your organization. Those of you working in an organization, look at its key strategies. What are the top 3 to 4 year plans? Right? It is saying, in order to bring those vision and the mission alive, these are the 5 key things we want to achieve. These are the outcomes we want to deliver. And for many of you, to be purposeful in everything you do, ask yourself, what's my role? Which of these bullet points do I contribute to? How can I, at the end of the year, measure my success and know that I've purposefully created those outcomes for the organization, knowing that my journey has been one of making a difference to the people who honor me? Because if you do that, you can't help but feel incredibly fulfilled through your career, going beyond what most other people do, which is, I'm here just to make a living. I'm here just to pay the bills. Be purposeful through your career, knowing that you're using your signature strengths, someone's honoring you with the opportunity to make a difference. And in the course of that, develop the skills, develop the connections to take you to what your longer range personal goals are. Is that making sense, team? All right, absolutely fantastic. So team, if you don't mind moving on to the next one, So I always remember there are always three types of people in the universe. I tell people, I can pretty much tell who's the most resilient and adaptable, who's the most inspired, and who's the leader amongst three people by asking them a question and listening to the response. My dear friends, I want you to imagine you meet a stranger and the person says to you, hey, what do you do? What do you do? What do you tell them? What do you say? How do you describe your job? I want you to imagine three bricklayers. Same qualification, same number of years of experience, right? Bricklayer A, task-oriented. What do you do, sir? I lay bricks. I'm a bricklayer. Task-oriented. Bricklayer B, what do you do? My goals say I need to build walls, right? If I build that wall on time within budget, I'm a success. Output-oriented. But remember that the tasks and outputs in your lives, my dear friends, are a means to an end, not an end in itself. The people who are most effective in their lives, and part of our role is to be effective, to create value, is to be outcome-oriented. To be what, everyone? Outcome-oriented. To be outcome-oriented. To start with, why are we doing this? What's the purpose? Bricklayer C, what do you do? I'm part of the team that's building the greatest cathedral in the universe. As part of this journey, I'm using my natural talents in bricklaying and meeting that deadline of building that wall in order to make that vision a reality. Out of the three people, I want you to imagine an organization needs to automate bricklaying, have found a way to do that to get even more done, cheaper, faster, better, cheaper, faster, better, but they need carpet layers. Which person will go, sorry mate, not my job. And which one will go, I don't know how, I'll learn. A, B, or C. What do you reckon? Who's the most adaptable and resilient? C. Out of the three, who do you think is most inspired by their role? A, B, or C? Which job inspires you more? Your job is to lay bricks? We are here to build walls. We are here to build the greatest cathedral in the universe. We achieve that by you using your signature strengths to make a difference in the way that only you can. A, B, or C? Out of the three, who would you say is the leader? I want you to imagine your organization decides to outsource bricklaying to a third-party company, right? Out of the three, you redeploy two, you keep one, because this person has leadership qualities. Which one will you keep, A, B, or C? So leadership is not a way of, it's not what you do, it's not the job title, it's how you think about what you do. Does that make sense, team? So what I'd love for you to do is very quickly, just for 1 minute, what I'd love for you to do is turn to your buddy and share with your buddy what is your job role. What do you do? And I want you to use this template. I want to encourage you to do this. I help. Who do you help? How does your work make a difference? By the task. Does it make sense? Start with the purpose. Start with the outcome. So many years ago, many people said to me, hey, Dom, what do you do? You know what I used to say? Operations Director, IBM. Today, when people say to me, hey, Dom, what do you do? I help create workplace culture that inspires the natural best in their people. And I do this by facilitating and designing bespoke workshops and interventions on emotional intelligence, culture, deepening collaboration, and helping people be the most resilient and empowered version of themselves. Can you see the difference? Yeah, everyone, very quickly, just for 1 minute, turn to the person next to you, think about your role, and share with your buddy, share with your partner what your job is in those terms. Go right ahead, everybody, just for 1 minute. All right, team? All good? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for that interaction. Again, you know, these sessions, it's all great in theory, but when you really put it into practice, you can hear and share, get the benefit from your partner and what they're sharing with you, it makes it even more meaningful. Would you agree with that? Yes? Everyone, please, can you please acknowledge your colleague? Give everyone a big hand. Well done. Good job. Thank you so much. Turn to your partner, give a partner a high five and say, thanks for being a leader. Come on, everybody. Thanks for being a leader. All right, team, can I take a couple of shares? Who would like to share? What do you do? When someone says to you from today onwards, what do you do? What would you say? What would you say? Anybody? What would you say? What would you say? Anybody?
Otherwise, I'll start picking people.
Any volunteers? What do you do?
Can I put you to share your Emily?
Would you be open?
Is this working? Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I am working in a telecom company,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
I am looking after a IT system,
Yes.
which is helping to deliver the mobile network
Wow.
to, yeah, to just, we are trying to build the best network in Australia.
Wonderful to help people connect, do business. Absolutely amazing. What was your name?
Emily.
Emily. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Everyone, let's give Emily a big hand. Absolutely wonderful. All right, team, again, always, whatever you do, reconnect it with your higher purpose. When you look at your to-do list and sometimes it's overwhelming, team, always remember, no one has the capacity to do everything in your to-do list, yes? It's about doing things that really matter. If you have 10 items, you say, if there's only 2 things in this list that can help me give 80% of the outcomes, what are the most important ones? But how would you know what are the most important outcomes? You got to understand what your ultimate purpose is. Right? Understand that for you to experience even greater fulfillment through your career, not just success, fulfillment, meaning, and purpose, make that about making a difference, yeah? Creating value. So I want to encourage you all to think about that because it will guide you in everything that you do. So team, step number 2 is really about starting with that inspired vision, being very clear about your direction. I love this quote. It says, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. So being very clear about that. So team, very quickly, I want you to imagine it's the end of 2025. See longer term, bigger picture. I want you to imagine it's the end of 2025. I want you to imagine it's pre-Christmas. One of the best years of your lives behind you. What do you need to see, hear, or feel to say, boy, it's been the most extraordinary 12 months of my life, right? And when you do that, just write it down, write it down. And for each of those steps, once you brainstorm and written all those goals down, yeah, key thing is write them and turn them into SMART goals. What SMART? Specific, measurable, actionable, relevant, / result-oriented, and time-bound. So for instance, this is a much more powerful way to set goals. For instance, if I say, hey, you know what, I want to get fitter, let's say. How many would agree that that's not very specific? That may not be incredibly measurable, right? But imagine if I said, hey, how can I turn that into a goal? For instance, to complete a 42-kilometer marathon by the 31st of July 2025 without stopping or walking and within a time of 5 hours in order to elevate my personal levels of vitality, develop an unstoppable mindset, and inspire others in the process. How many would agree that that's a lot more specific? It's a lot more inspiring because there's a clear purpose as well. Yeah, so step number 2 is, before you talk about what should I do, talk about what will make it extraordinary. Number 1, decide to be a captain of your ship. Number 2, be inspired by an outcome. Now, team, when you're thinking about purpose and goals, one of the key things to always remember is this word called balance. What's the word, everyone? Balance. Yeah, very often in our career, we can be tempted to think about, hey, in my work. But remember, there are 8 parts of our life, at least between 5 to 8 parts of our life that need to be managed. It's a little bit like 8 potted plants in your life, right? If you focus on 1 or 2 of them and you nourish and nurture it, what would agree, what would happen to their 6 other pots? How many would agree that they will wither and die away? Would you agree? Yes? So whenever you're setting goals as well, think about the 8 key areas in your life. Again, some of you may only have 5. For instance, you want to think about your career. 12 months from now, what will make it the most amazing? The second thing is, how many would agree that finances are really important? If your career is going great, but every week you're worried about paying the bills and your credit card debt is growing higher, how many would agree that that's not sustainable? All the energy you need to put into your finances one day is going to take all the joy and detract you from your effectiveness in your career. And similarly, if those 2 are going great, but you know what? How many would agree that your health is really important? Right? If you don't have the health and vitality, imagine waking up one day and the doctor says you got to slow down because high blood pressure. Start going to the gym every day, right? How many would agree that when that happens, it's incredibly stressful and that will have an impact on the other areas of your life? And so it is with your relationships, your family and friends, your relationship with a special other, your personal growth, your bucket list items, right? I'm at an age in my life where I realize, boy, there's so many places I want to see and do. And not just that, I don't just want to see and do them, I want to do them and be able to do the long hikes, enjoy all the food. So you got to think bigger picture. Does that make sense? So whenever you're setting goals for yourself, before you decide what's most important, think balance. Because each of the other areas, if you're not putting attention on them, they will either suck energy from the others areas, or it will give them energy, right? So again, that maintaining that balance is really important. In 1998, Professor Brooks decided to sell the company to Sun Microsystems. And you know what? He wanted me to be sold with that company because they don't just buy technology, they want to buy people. I had been living in the US with my wonderful family, my wife and my two boys. At that time, we had two boys, Jeremy and Aaron were 2 and 4. And boy, we were like, what do we do? We've lived there, and it was an exciting time for a software engineer, and yet I was working literally 16-hour days, 7 days a week. And I knew that I was going to get even more of that in a new company. But you know what? If I turned down that offer of a wonderful contract with Sun Microsystems, they'll give me a 3-year, at least a bond, attractive salary and all that stuff. Boy, if I said no to that, I wouldn't have a job. And how many would agree that if I only focus on my career, the easy thing to do would have been to say, I'm going to accept that job. After all, it's super exciting, money's great. How many would agree with that? That will be the easy way out. But one of the great things I did was, I did a little workshop on goal setting, very similar to what I'm sharing with you today. And the wonderful coach happened to be Tony Robbins as well. I bought a set of tapes. And with my wife, one late night, before we made that big decision, we did this exercise. And Tony, on that tape, we were listening to this cassette tape, he says, Dom, 10 years from now, looking back, what will cause for you to say, in the area of your career, it's been the best 10 years of your life, in your finances, in your relationship with each other, in your relationship with your kids and your family and all that kind of stuff, in your vitality and energy. And you know what? Imagine that 10 years have passed, you've achieved all of that. How would that make you feel? Boy, I said, man, that would be an absolute dream come true. So did an exercise, set SMART goals, but Sue and I reviewed each other's notes. And we were surprised because we had a lot of things in common, certain things that are different, which is absolutely okay. It's a little bit like you're packing your suitcase with your partner. He or she will want to put certain things that you prefer not to put, but that's a priority for him or her, etc., etc. How many of you agree that collaboration is really important? Yeah. So when we collaborate with our goals, we realized that we had one goal that surprised us that we hadn't talked about, which was we wanted to have a third child, a daughter. My dear friends, after we had our 2 children, Sue had had such bad lower back problems, lower back sciatica nerve problems. Any of you heard of that problem? Yeah, anytime she sneezed, boy, she would fall into a heap. We've gone through all sorts of expensive remedies, all which never seemed to work. And we suspected it was due to childbirth, the process of bringing Aaron and Jeremy to this world. And without speaking, we had decided, I thought, 2 is enough. That's it. But you know what? When we thought further out, we said, boy, I said, Moy, if I can have a choice in my life CV, I would love to be a person who had the opportunity of walking a daughter up the aisle. That would be amazing. You see, my father had 4 sons, no daughters. When I had 2 sons, I'm saying, boy, this must be the genes. I kind of given up on having a daughter. But geez, I really wanted to have a daughter. And Sue wanted one too. And that was prompted from doing what's ideal, not just what's comfortable. Is that making sense? And you know what? Very happy to say that today, this is my beautiful girl. Last week, she's 24. I can share with you just having that mindset of focusing on the bigger picture, right? My greatest gift, turning that vision to reality. So this is key. Now, once you've done that, yeah, you've got aside, I want to encourage each and every one of you, yes, sit down, decide to be captain of ship, set your goals for the year. What will make it extraordinary? When you have time, set firstly maybe a 3-year goal. 3-year goals for each of those areas of life, and then put it back and say, 12 months from now, how will I know I'm well in progress towards that goal? And I can celebrate because it's been the most extraordinary 12 months of my life. Is everyone seeing a little bit of a framework that I'm giving you here? Yes, and then on a weekly basis, make time to plan. It's a little bit like that suitcase. You're going to bring everything out, look at all the things you need to bring along, and prioritize them, yeah? I'm going to give you a very quick tool here. This tool is called the Eisenhower Matrix. My dear friends, when you look at your to-do list, they all fall into one of 4 categories. The first category of item is what's called urgent and important. Let me define what's urgent and what's important. Urgent is anything that feels like it's pressing on us. But in the scheme of things, it actually is not that important in the context of taking us towards the goals we've said are most important, will make our years extraordinary. Does that make sense? For instance, you get notification, hey, Black Friday sales, got to buy from today. And it might distract you from your bigger plans. How many would agree that it feels urgent, but in the scheme of things, right? You plan a party for your family. You plan to come here. You could have chosen to say, you know what? I'm going to choose the one that feels more urgent and go Black Friday sales, right? Some people who registered for this saying, oh, it's important to me. I want to get even more from my life, may have decided to prioritize that thing. Not in judgment and on my part, but how many would agree that what feels urgent may actually not be important? So when you look at your to-do list that you accumulated and you set aside time to plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, as they say, look at the list and see what category it falls into. There's stuff that's urgent and important. Sue and I, we were in Singapore about 5 weeks ago running workshops. And, you know, we have the blessing of having her father live with us these days. Our 3 children have moved out. It was really interesting. 11:45 p.m. in Singapore before we're going to bed in our hotel. Next day, big workshop. We get this text message. Sue has an app because her dad is a little bit hard of hearing. He's 88 years old. Sometimes he's a little bit forgetful. She kind of knows where he is through the app. And the app at 12:45 p.m. here in Singapore, which is 2:45 a.m. here, says, Dad has just left home. 2:45 a.m. And we tracked his whereabouts. He was like 500 meters up the road at the train station where we lived. Now, how many would agree that at that moment, giving that attention, dropping everything else, is both urgent and important? Would you agree? That's an example of urgent and important. But how many would agree if your to-do lists are filled with things like that, your life is incredibly stressful? It almost feels like you're putting out fires all the time, but they're important fires. Does that make sense? If I have to drop everything at work and go and get a heart checkup because my heart palpitations have been going high, it's urgent and important. But you don't want a lot of the things in your to-do list to be filled with urgent and important all the time. You don't want to be in crisis mode, in the zone of demand, right? But zone number 3, very often you find the average person has 30 to 40% of the items on the to-do list that are urgent, but actually not that important. I once spoke to a 4-star general in the Department of Defense, and this is Dom. I just came back from a vacation, 2 weeks in the vacation, and I came back, guess how many emails in the inbox? Unread. 5,000. Guess what he did? He deleted them all, wrote to his team, if any of you, respectfully, I've deleted the emails, anything that's really urgent or important, send it back to me. You know how many came back? 5. And it was an epiphany. He says, boy, if I had been in the office, I would have read every single one of them, at least look and delete. How many of you agree that that takes time? So sometimes, don't confuse activity with results. There are a lot of things that we do in the scheme of things. You are either mastering time or your time is mastering you. So managing your emotions is really important, yeah? But of course, there's some stuff here that's important for, that is neither important nor urgent. They're called the zone of distraction. Usually it starts with excessive or too much. During COVID, I was guilty of getting attracted to some of the Korean drama on TV, right? And I started watching an hour. And how many agree that watching an hour to chill and relax and sharpen the saw, not a bad thing? But then I found myself regularly starting at, 6 p.m. and ending at 3 a.m. And we went on 2-3 days in a row. How many would agree that it becomes neither important nor urgent? They call the zones of distraction. Now, the critical things, when you think about what you're going to put into the suitcase first, what you're going to put into your time schedule for the week first in your planning, the big rocks are really quadrant 2. The things that are important, like coming here today was not urgent, would you agree? Really, there's no burning platform in your life. But you came here because you felt this is going to really help me with my life, with my strategy, with my direction. I can get more tools to help me be even better. Would you agree? The important, non-urgent stuff. I want you to agree, I want you to know that in 2001, if I look at all my to-do lists, very few of the items were quadrant 2. Because it was just so much easier for the ego, right, to do the things that are pressing on me. but usually they're not the things that are really important. Because back then, I didn't even know what was important. If someone was asked me, Dom, in 2001, Dom, where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know what I would say? I don't know. I have no idea. I wasn't a master of my destiny. I was a victim of my circumstance. Is it helping you, everybody? Yeah, so again, when you prioritize, use this matrix, it can be incredibly helpful. I'm going to move right forward, my dear friends. The fourth step is to take massive action. Yeah, always remember the things that you want to do in your life, in your to-do list, once you schedule them in, right, into your calendar because you prioritize them. Remember that 20% of the stuff in your calendar give you 80% of your results. Sorry, 20% of the stuff in your to-do list give you 80% of your results. It's called the Pareto principle. Those of you who have a wardrobe, how many of you appreciate that 20% of the clothes in there you wear 80% of the time? Those of you who have a kitchen, 20% of the utilities you use 80% of the time. And similarly, 20% of the things in your to-do list that you haven't acted on actually give you 80% of the results. The key to mastering your time is to say no to the other 80%. Put the 20% in. Or find different ways to optimize the time on the other stuff. Does that make sense? All right, team, I hope that's helpful for you. But you know what? Taking massive action is do the things that are most important first. Many years ago, I decided that if you do the numbers here, I wanted to touch 1 million lives in my work before my time's up. I couldn't reach it just by doing this. I decided I wanted to write an Amazon bestseller. Yeah, so I could touch lives while I'm here, and the book is selling itself through Amazon and touching even more lives and generally being authentic in inspiring my kids. Now, how many of you agree that after doing something like this all day long, and most of my workshops go for full days, sometimes 5 days in a row, how many would agree that the last thing you feel like doing in the evenings is to write a book? Important, not urgent. And usually one of the things I had to do was schedule to wake up at, let's say, 6 a.m. in the morning, do it first, the 1 hour, get it out of the way, or go to the gym first, or write to my loved ones and thank them first. Does that make sense, team? All right, team. So moving right on, the next step is always create energy, because it's not what you do, it's how much energy you put into what you do that really matters. Okay, everybody, can you hold up your right hand, please, very quickly? Turn and look at your palm. I want you to imagine in your palm there's something that looks like a stopwatch, except instead of being a timekeeper, it is an energy keeper. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your reading? How many of you are like, I need a bait right now? And how many of you are 10 or above, like this madman here? Some of you are. Thank you so much, Ziv. How many of you are not level 10 yet? Can I show you a quick little tip, strategy, where you can get to level 10? It only takes like literally 5 seconds. Is that okay? Now, for this to happen, you have to participate fully. Everyone, can you be upstanding, please, very quickly? Very quickly. This is one of our last activities. We're going to wrap up very shortly. Okay, everybody. If you don't mind, can you put a big smile on your face? Put a big smile on your face. Everyone, clap. We're going to use something called movement. Faster, faster, faster. Move your feet, move your feet, move your feet, move your feet. Can we do 3 pumps in the air with the word yes at level 10 energy? Let's do it together. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, everyone, take a look at your energy meter on a scale of 1 to 10. What's your reading? How many of you are feeling heightened levels of energy right now? Great. Turn to the person next to you, give the person a high five and say, you're amazing. Grab a seat, grab a seat. Team, that was a quick little way of saying that it's not how much you do, it's the energy you put into what you do that really matters. The way you're feeling right now, for the rest of the day, do you think you might remember even more, be even more effective, have an even more memorable experience? What do you reckon? Yes? So I want to encourage you to make time every day, every week, right, to build energy. Okay? Key thing here, team, I'm going to wrap up very shortly. You know, these are the things. Tony Robbins calls it your hour of power. So first thing in the morning, if you're working 12-hour days, try to bring it back to 10. Make sure you allocate 1 hour to creating energy, because the way you're feeling right now, if you put that into what you do, you get things done so much quicker, so much more efficiently. Would you agree? Yes? And that's key, yeah? So brisk walk around, incantations, visualize your dreams. Remember that. Ask yourself, what am I grateful for in my life right now? Cultivate gratitude. Who do I love? Reflect on all those things. Builds energy. Yeah. Again, team, those of you who want a copy of the slides, you can reach out to us. We will send that to you. Yeah. I know some of you are taking pictures here. Work step number 6, my dear friends, is to work smarter, not harder. How many of you agree that there are certain tools out there that can really elevate your productivity? How many of you have used a tool called ChatGPT? Absolutely amazing. How many of you that has saved you so much time and helped you to be faster, do things cheaper, and even better? So there's an example. But many of us say, oh, we don't have time to do that. Would you agree? So leverage that, team. I've just got 3 of my favorites here. ChatGPT, I use Canva for a lot of my content. And this is a Trello board, right? All my team have visibility over the status of each item, who can help in and chip in with each other. We are optimizing collaboration as well. Does that make sense, team? Again, team, won't go too much time with that. In our courses on full-day courses on optimizing personal productivity, we talk about that. And number 7 is be focused, team. Yeah, when you're planning those activities and you decide on what's most important, execute it, minimize distractions. Yeah, how many would agree that just like a car, if it's driving through busy traffic in the city versus driving in the freeway, which one uses fuel more efficiently? Which one? Freeway, would you agree? So similarly, whenever you've allocated an hour to finish a task, an hour to finish a report, try to minimize distractions. Yeah, because the stop-start is what takes up a lot of your time and energy. Yeah, manage your environment, stop the notifications and all that stuff. Yeah, stay focused. But team, my last tip to you is that once you've done all of this, how many of you agree that no matter how much you do, you will never be able to do everything? I want to encourage you each and every day before you go to bed, just do some reflection. What's been great about today? Celebrate you. Celebrate the priorities. Celebrate progress, right? And ask yourself, if I had to do today all over again, what would I do to make it even better? Remember, it's not what you do, it's how you feel about what you do that really matters. Remember that no matter where you are in your destination, success is a journey, not a destination. Know that winning is done by winners. And the key thing is to acknowledge yourself for being the winner that you are, for having the discipline to do the things that really matter, putting joy, love, and gratitude and energy into everything you do. And every day just becomes an absolute blast. Team, I've done my dash, time management. I got to finish on time. Have all of you taken away 1 or 2 ideas, inspirations, yes, that you can implement in your life? I do thank you for your energy. I know we've run out of time. It's 45, but if anyone have any burning questions, you want to stay back, I'm here for the next hour or so, happy to answer any questions that you may have. Is that cool, everyone? All right, team. But other than that, my dear friends, if those of you are looking for even greater inspiration, you got 2 champion Olympians, right, coming up here, 5:15 to 6:15. By all means, go and see how they think, feel, and act. See whether you take away some strategies that you can implement. But otherwise, on behalf of Center of Continuing Education and on behalf of myself, my amazing wife, thank you for honoring us with your presence today. We do hope that you've taken value. Yeah. Thank you so much. Have the best rest of the evening, week, and the rest of your career and life. Yeah. Take care. Thank you so much.